I just haven't felt all that energetic. It's been a strange rainy week. It's amazing how people are really celebrating the coming of these witchcraft high holidays, and how people are turning a blind eye to all this. Occultism. And I've had a really strange, revealing day today. Nothing that I would have expected. Grab my shoes real quick. So I was listening to Sean Atwood, and he was playing a gotta grab my supplements too. Take him the TMG, the trimethylglycine that I have left. Got a couple more days there, and it's lasted me over like almost 2.5 months. And we've got this creatine. I'm very grateful for all the supplements and everything. And this is just one of those days where, I don't even want to know who's going to watch or listen, rather. Just easing my way in. Easing my way in. In 2000, I don't even know when it started, because as I look back, you could see the rituals and the dates that things were done. And you can just see what the conjuring aspect of these spiritual forces are really doing. So when I look at this very strange meeting with King Charles and Trump, and then Sam Altman and Cook, and all these people were there at that meeting with King Charles. And these people are bowing down to this spiritual entity. They're inviting the forces within them. So like when you see Elon Musk or Sam Altman, Ben Gortzel, Joe Shabok, any of these people, they are not impressive individuals. They're conjuring spirits. A multitude of spirits and spiritual identities follow them. Like when you really get down to what a tour de force really means. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for having made it through. But then I watch how people stay in this illusion for a lifetime. So Sean Atwood was talking about, well, rather, what he was replaying with this Pastor Brian, which I think I've actually heard of. So there's this round room, right, that almost looks like a concrete round water tower in Grass Valley. I never knew about these rituals that supposedly Anton LaVey held satanic rituals up there. And I was, unbeknownst to me, my mother is a so-called Christian and hides behind Christianity, but all the things she does, she's a practicing witch. She does all the spells. You can see what she's doing. She's not doing it out in the open. But as a result, people from the Mormon church, the Masons, she plays ignorant, and then suddenly she gets really smart when it's time to collect, right? And she brought on so much grief and continued this tradition that her grandmother, who before my uncle passed away some months back, said she was a practicing witch in Santeria, which isn't something to be taken lightly, right? So when I look at all this, my own mother desperately trying to trade in my soul and sell me out since I was a little boy, doing weird things to me and one of my sisters, probably all my sisters, grooming us, having strange people around us, some that were considered child molesters. And one of my sisters even got to this place where she could just see spiritually what my mother, she's not my mother, not spiritually, like it's completely disconnected. The cord is severed, right? But she put me through all these trials. And quite honestly, you're given the opportunity to leave, especially if you have the strength, the fortitude, and you've developed a skill. I was given everything. It's almost like a test to give you everything. Because you end up with things that you didn't even contemplate that you wanted, right? The world's bowing down to you. And then it wants you to fight for it. It wants you to grapple with truth, grapple with your sense of purity. And it's not an abstract thing. When I say your sense of purity, it's our innate ability, but our ability that we can form in order to where we are proximally at the moment in our lives. And this is about time and distance and the fact that it's very difficult for us to see. Like, I was looking up this round room in Grass Valley. Suddenly I'm on this very strange, obscure channel where these very dark, lost people, right, started a channel. They're, let's say, trying to invoke the name of Jesus, which is a very different thing, right? Because you've got a different energy there. And it is a very convoluted thing, not believing in the pure Son, in Jesus, right? Because people will try to take a dose of that and then gratify themselves and justify that they are indeed good people, right? And then they can run off and do whatever they want and come back in for their power supply. Do you really think that that's how any son of God or pure source works? That's not a falsified forgery. Heck no. No. So personal power, right? You have to realize that no matter how much you think that you have an identity and you have personal power, that you will be tested ultimately through this procession that's based on, you could look at the zodiac if you want to kind of distance yourself from the dates and the times. that mark you, right? And the thing is that you may not believe in what I'm talking about, but it believes in you in the sense that it is believed in by government, passed through legislation. Days will be recognized and they will be called one thing. And the practitioners will be seeing them as an entirely different source, right? Gateway. To the point where you can feel it, but it's very difficult to identify it, right? And once you do finally identify it, and the information, so information has to be disclosed, right? When you're talking about these doorways or these windows, which is very strange because there's this Shriners Hospital in Sacramento, and I can't remember what I was watching. I think I was watching a couple different programs at the same time. It was like a live by Operation GCD, and then I may have been watching a couple Unfiltered Rise possibly, or Headless Giant, right? They're all kind of affiliated with one another, all these channels. And I realized what was being discussed and what can't be avoided is that when somebody starts to look at historical events, names, places, ideologies that have to do with Freemasonry, Mormonism, Rosicrucianism, with ChatGPT's help, I published an amalgamation, a synapse, a summary. I'm going to say a synapse or a synapsis, just like a junction point, right? That leads one to a collective conduit of how these informations coincide with one another. But when you look back, you'll see the deception. You'll see how this gateway was opened under the auspices, under the name of seemingly other practitioners, but that you look at a place, a time, an event, and who picked out a property, the people that are invited in, what the property is exposed to, from witches to Mormon practicing witches, right? To Freemasons who are working around the rings, around the edges, right? And then when you're trapped in it, you don't see that you are in fact being indoctrinated into a field, a subset of information. And for you to make it through with a soul, and for your soul to become even more resilient after surviving all of that, right? You didn't do it alone. You didn't do it alone, right? And these trials are a competition, right? From our perspective, people think about the 144, because this leads into other areas that aren't as classified or distinct, but the people who are stuck in these religions, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? The Latter-day Saints, all these seeming religions that try to break themselves off and say, no, we're not affiliated with this, but they are renaming a certain magic, if you will, that the practitioners don't have to have this written in their ritualistic literature, right? All these fronts, but when you look at the symbols, right, they're invoking their invitations to a spiritual existence. So I'm watching this video a little while back, and I don't even want to name the channel. It's dark, and you can see that these people are actually possessed. Like, you can see the possession of these people and how dark they are. And they're playing with a Ouija board at this actual site and purifying and cleansing yourself, right? And inviting only purity in, right? That and the pure source and the connection to the pure source, that you can't understand it through the defilement of this world, this life, right? But you're going to have to start taking steps that don't initially step away from certain people and times and events, situations, but invariably you are only open to the pure source, right? I can't believe how many times I actually failed, but that the resilience really of a power that is the pure source that you can't even see was in fact protecting me even in the darkest times. It's almost as if you have to be exposed, right, to a certain degradation or element of this very dark, malevolent force, right, to truly understand and to know without question, this smells dirty. And so there's people that are half turned, partially turned, that you will be exposed to. You don't think you're doing something bad. You're just sort of going along with it. What else do I do, right? What else do I do? This is like, here I am making out with this person. Here we are advancing toward these sexual practices, or here we are doing this drug, right? Here we are now going to this place and doing this other activity or ritual. How the heck did I end up here? Everything will be okay, right? This person doesn't mean to harm me. This drug isn't a deep or dark enough drug to really be, right? But that's on the fringe is where you invoke and invite the sway. And it's this sway that ultimately at the end of the day, you're either going to realize that these things are all around you all the time. And I believe they're scrying and writing symbols around us, particularly when we are in areas that even, and most especially your family members and your friends and your coworkers and the dates, the time of the event, and even more so, even if you were to study this and be able to take time out of your life to do this, you're not going to be able to work. So they can throw that at you also, that you are some kind of deadbeat to society, which is ridiculous, because when you begin to look at it and the slavery and the caste system, when you start to look at it, you're like, no, I refuse you, right? And so are you given other opportunities? Like for you to think that prosperity is now something that is divine to you through a pure source. Does that exist? Is there an alignment? We're going to say holy with an H, but not really, right? Not really. As in holes, right? But we're going to say holy without the W, without being born of a woman or a witch, right? That, or the undulation of the markets, right? We have a hard time correlating in, is this the seventh progression or really regression of this witch's high holiday, right? Where the energy is culminated and there's a zodiacal connection there, right? Our bodies have been desecrated prior to our birth. We live within a ritualized solution of this occult ritualistic practice. We live so much in it that all the symbols and all the signs surround us, from our birthday to our name, right? And you begin to wonder, if this is what's going on this level out here, what the heck is happening on the deeper scale, where there seems to be a congruence between the infinitesimally small, as we would assume, and the massive movements of planetary systems. There is, in fact, a sinking in and a direct connection and correlation with all of these various quadrants or spheres of reality. And when you begin to look at it like that, like this darkness around you, the symbols that surround you, the pinpointed torsion-fueled Lee lines that are connecting the Masonic halls and the highway systems and the libraries and the schools. And long before those who supplicated, right, those who capitulated immediately did so and invited these spiritual forces into them. There was no fight, there is no fight. You can see the strange expression on Sam Altman's face. He looks like this odd man out. He looks like he could be sitting at a park and you would think there's something off with this guy. You see him in the interview with Tucker Carlson, and you can't help but exclaim to yourself, this guy's eyes are somewhere else. This guy's facial expression is one of, are they going to find out I'm guilty? Are they going to find out what I've done? Like, I guarantee, you look right in his eyes and say, are you the man who sold the world? You have to be honest, or the entities that are attached to you, giving you this information and allowing you to be a conduit, right? He's nothing but a patsy, just like Elon Musk. There's nothing great about these people. They've never said anything that assumably harkens back to any higher IQ or any attribution that they are on this higher scale or level of thought. No. On the contrary, they have these befuddled, strange expressions where they look like they are being invoked themselves, like they are the ones who are being conjured, right? So I don't want anything to do with that world or this world. In fact, if you could see, the entire operation requires everyone pitching in, everyone in one form or another sacrificing the youth, a system that when wars aren't happening, other processes are used to invite, to sell off the youth. Instead of wars, everybody's on these fucking pharmaceutical drugs where they can't even be themselves. They're kept in this sort of hypnagogic state, you know, anesthetized. It's pretty crazy. Can you see it all at once? Do you allow yourself to see it all at once? Or are you always hiding and only seeing things from one viewpoint or vantage point or parallax view or another? Are you capable of seeing it all? Right? And then you'll realize that the things that you thought you did, even the most heinous crimes that you know you've committed in your life, that you thought you got away with, that you try to suppress, there's a really good chance, in fact, almost a 100% certain chance that you were not the one initiating those actions, even though your hands did it, right? Even though your system was excited into movement, even though you thought you were doing it, you were conjured. You were used. And if you could see it and know yourself, right? That exclamation, know thyself. That's how important it is to know yourself, but you can't know yourself without principles. And principles aren't just edicts. Principles aren't just you created an application that works, so that's the system you use. That's the epistemology you use. No, there's an ontology. There's an exact system. And what it is demanding is that the nomenclature, the epistemology, right, is not going to be identified in any way but using an exact address, number, letter, time, space, signature, sequence. In other words, it will be called at the end of the day, purity or impurity. It must be seen as such. You're either standing on one side or the other.